Hello, everybody. Welcome to Pause Unleash 518. Today, I have a very special guest. His name is Biat. I met him at a workshop a few months back, and I found some of his background in training very interesting. He trains in New York City. He's from Switzerland. And I would like to kind of compare different views, different point of views, different cultural backgrounds regarding dog training and how it influences our day-to-day mission to save the world between canine and humans. So, welcome, Biat, to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, you know, you kind of gave me the idea to start this. So,
That's amazing. And like these kind of workshops and are a great thing because as I just mentioned before we started, the interview, you suddenly get into something that you never thought before because you expose yourself to other people and hear them speak and hear them ask questions, and so this is fantastic. I'm excited that I'm on your podcast.
well, let's talk about dogs because most people, most normal people have a dog. I want them to hear the truth, not show them, like nonsense. And like we talked about earlier, a video of how to do something. Because, basically teaching a dog how to sit or teaching somebody to teach their dog how to sit or
Hmm.
whatever you want to teach them, there's like thousands of ways of doing it. It's not like
Right.
one way. And, you see a lot of videos that people say, oh, this is the only way. This is the only way. So I kind of want to touch base on that and talk about that more in depth. But let's first start. What inspired you to become a dog trainer?
So this really interesting. I came to the United States because I studied music, and so that was like my reason for coming to New York, and um, and so I did that for about 25 years, and honestly, when my partner actually was like, you know what, you're gone so much and you're always on tour and I'm here on my own. I think I want to get a dog. And the funny thing was at that point I was like, you know what, are you crazy? Getting a dog in New York City. There's nowhere for them to go. There's nothing for them to do because I'm from Switzerland. I grew up not in the country but in a suburb with 5 minutes, 10 minutes walk to the woods. So we did have dogs, and that's how I thought it needed to be. Having a yard, then easy access to outdoor spaces. Off leash was a must. Like you did the training and all that kind of stuff, but it was part of it, right? We didn't really think about it. It's just like if you have a dog, you're gonna take him to the woods, and he needs to come back when you ask the dog to come back. So back to New York, about well, now it's about 12 years ago. I was thinking my partner was crazy, and I really wasn't into it at all. But he's his own person, and I basically kind of acted like a parent, and I was I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna walk the dog if you don't have time for it. I'm not gonna feed the dog if you don't have time for it. All these kind of things that
Yeah.
parents tell their kids when they get them a puppy. And so 12 years later, look at me, right? I'm a dog trainer. So it's really funny, and that's, I think, also the amazing thing about dogs, and if you are really letting yourself, if you're letting yourself, get connect with them, not just have them as a replacement for like a cuddle buddy, or just somebody that's there to fill your time when you don't know what to do, when your friends are not calling you.
Not a toy or an object.
Exactly, exactly. And so we had Morena. Morena is our first dog. She just turned 12, and she was great. We were super lucky. We took her from the shelter in Europe. We don't use a lot of crates, or at least when I was having dogs, crates we didn't know about it. Um, and so the shelter asked us to put her in the crate right after the adoption because they're used to it, and they said it's easier for potty training and all that kind of stuff. And so instead of doing that, we just had like a bed in a corner in the living room, and she came in and she peed on the floor. And then she went on her bed, like she found it on her own, and she stayed there throughout the night and then when we got up in the next morning, we had to go pick her up from her bed. So it was really like very interesting, very different from very many of the dogs that I'm training right now. But she was fantastic. She just did that, and she did that every night until we broke the rule to not have her in the bedroom, and all this kind of stuff. Anyway,
Yeah.
long story short. Once she ended up in the bedroom, I had fallen in love, and I couldn't imagine having to be in the living room, and all these rules and all that kind of stuff. And then because I felt so grateful for that experience, with that living being. I wanted to go and help the shelter, and I was wondering what can I do. I could donate money, or I could go and maybe adopt another dog, and then I decided that the best way to help is to help the ones that are there. So go there, start walking them, so they because there's over every shelters are always understaffed. Dogs don't get enough fulfillment. So I went there and started walking dogs for about 2.5 years. I started going once a week, and I ended up going like 4 times a week for like 2, 3 hours. I was like obsessed, and I'm a big guy and I'm strong, so they started handing me the more difficult dogs, who don't get a lot of outside thing. So we did that. Through that, I met a another rescue person who was doing actual rescuing of dogs, and we became acquainted and connected on Facebook. And I at one point I saw and I'm gonna get to the point while I'm doing dog training. But that's
There's
kind of
always there's always a story that
yeah,
leads
yeah,
up to
I
it.
mean,
Yeah.
that's the whole story, right? Are we talking about the truth, as you said? No.
Well, if he woke up one day and said, "I want to be a dog trainer,"
Well, I mean, that's why not? That's great. I wish I would have more of those moments where I know 100% what I want. But anyway, so one thing led to another. And one day I saw one of those urgent posts of like she rescued dogs from a hoarding case. There were 12 dogs and 10 cats in a two-bedroom apartment. And so she found a spot for everyone except one dog, like a 1 year old, really, adorable. But it seemed like there was nobody who wanted to foster that dog or take care of that dog, and he was going to go to the public shelter, which they're all kill shelters. And so at that point, I got in contact with her, and long story short, I ended up with that dog, and that dog is Max, and we foster failed very quickly, but not because he was he is a fantastic dog, but he was actually super, super difficult. Like I had never experienced that in Switzerland, nor like I didn't have that much experience in New York City with other dog owners. Um, so he was super reactive because he was underexposed to New York because he was just
Oh yeah.
inside in this apartment. Um, and we live in a very busy area, and so he just started to be reactive. And I got to the point where going on walks and doing the things that I was doing with Morena what became very difficult and unpleasant. And I saw that everybody was suffering. Morena didn't get the same kind of outlet. He was obviously stressed out, and I was stressed out. And so at that point, I guess that's about 9 years ago, 8 years ago. there was not as much availability like right now where you can really go on online and there's going to be hundreds and hundreds of dog trainers that are that show their page and their product as trainers, and the only person that was willing to do reactivity stuff was Dream Come True Canine Blake Rodriguez in the Lower East Side, and so that's where I went. I went to start doing group classes, and it started working. I started training Max. Was changing to different tools. I did the first class, then I did the second class. I did e-collar training with him, and
So he was your test buddy, basically.
well, yes. I mean, yeah. If you want to call it that, yes. He was basically we were helping each other, right?
Yeah,
I was helping him to be able to have a bigger life, so I would be able to take him wherever I was able to take Morena because Morena was going everywhere, and and I wanted him to have that same opportunity, go out to the park, be off leash, be around dogs, all this kind of stuff. So I put in the work, and it was a lot. It was a lot, but I also felt like Dream Come True and Blake Rodriguez definitely helped me with the whole you know getting through that, like what am I going to do to for my dog to understand me better, right?
exactly.
And
Communication.
communication, exactly, and he was really big on that. And you know obviously that definition of communication with the dog keeps changing as well, but long story short, I felt like I kind of had a knack for it because I looked at the other participants of the two group classes that I did and what their dogs were able to do after that and how they behaved and how I was able to do what I was able to do with Max because after I would say maybe 6 months to a year, I was able to actually take him out and off leash and be able to safely have him outside, safe for him, but also safe for any potential dogs that he would be uncomfortable with. Um, and so I was like, you know what? Maybe this is something that I should look into more. I'm curious. I want to know more. I think I know the basics. This is working for Max, but maybe there is better ways. Maybe there's different ways to even do more. So I called Dream Come True and was thinking of doing an apprenticeship with him. But then I guess they were looking for volunteers just to come in a couple of times a week just to kind of help with the staff. And she was like, you know what? Instead of doing an apprenticeship and paying all this money, um, I guess we've had become friendly as well, because I've been going there for so long. She was like, why don't you come and volunteer? You'll do like some basic work. You're gonna be cleaning crates. You're gonna be cleaning, vacuuming, doing the floors. But you're also gonna be starting to handle dogs first, like the easy dogs. And there's gonna be trainers there who can show you and.
Kind of
And so
like
I
a
started
shadowing
doing.
program.
Yeah, I guess it's a kind of a shadowing program, in like an intern. I don't know and and so I did that for a while, and then there was a change in personnel, and Blake asked me if I would be interested to join the team, and I was like, oh wow, okay, because I never had considered it because I was a full-time musician, and so I was. With that condition, I was telling him like if I'm on tour, I need to be able to go. I can't, I'm happy to join, and so I started to become a trainer at Dream Come True K9, and that happened for about a year, and then the pandemic happened, and then we had to close because it was a boarding facility. We had to
Okay.
we had to close because the whole thing was, everything was shut down. Not for very long, but I think it was like 3 months or 2 months or something.
Till everybody can start getting used to the new situation.
Yeah, exactly. So, so at that point, I had also gotten much more involved in rescue. I was doing volunteering on the weekend. I was doing interviews for adoptions and all that kind of stuff with a rescue organization. Um, and as you know, during the pandemic, everybody was adopting dogs.
Oh
Like
yeah.
dogs were flying off the shelf, basically, like the best pastries in New York. They were just going. And but then there was a lot of and the rescue that there were a lot of difficult dogs that also flew off the shelves, which now we have a hard time finding homes for.
Oh yeah.
Um, and these dogs needed help. And the rescue that I was working with, they actually required the people to take a package of 4 or 6 sessions. And so it was, it, I thought that was a great idea, but I wasn't part of it yet. I was training on this, I had been training with Dream Come True. And, um, and so because of the pandemic, they just adopted out so many dogs that the trainers they were using didn't have enough time. So the founder of the rescue organization was, you know what, you need to train dogs. And I was like, you know what, I am training dogs, but it's different to do it just working on board and train dogs and boarding dogs than actually doing it and actually showing somebody like a person, an amateur, a layman, who
Yeah.
doesn't really understand anything. And I'm not sure if I'm ready. She's like, you know what? You got to help us. I know you can do it. I saw you work. You know your shit. I was like, I don't know. She's like, you know what? I'm gonna give you one dog, an easy dog. I just want you to like start it. There's no commitment. You don't have to like. And I was like, okay, yeah, just I'll do it. I'll see how it goes. And so I did my first session and it went well, and I reported back and how it goes in rescue. I don't know if you were involved with rescue as well, but once you're in it and once you give like a little bit, they will it not in a bad intention, but because there's so much need, they will try to get you to take on more, right? So right after my reporting, she was like, you know what? There's another dog that's very similar, and he's like right like in your neighborhood, and you literally have to walk 10 minutes. Can you take that one too? And so that's how it kind of like spiraled into me having, I think, 4 days a week, about 3 or 4 sessions of private training, which turned into her saying like, now you're doing so many dogs, you need to have a company. Like I need to be able to tell people who are buying these sessions that you're legit and who you are, and so so basically, or in other words, I fell into my own company through the rescue stuff. So it all comes from basically Morena rescuing her, adopting her, um, and here I am with 3 for 3 dog training, and it still keeps going strong. I do very little advertising. My motto is I'd rather do less, but I'm able to be available when I'm needed over taking on a lot of clients and making them wait for a long time.
Oh yeah.
That's also a luxury, right? Not everybody. If you have a business and this is your only income, then it's very hard. You have to do
Yeah.
something else, But that's kind of like, I feel like because dogs are so valuable to me, I don't want them to be a product that I'm just fixing.
Exactly.
I want to be able to, as much as possible, be able to go and look at the individual case.
Can you explain the name? Why did you choose that name for the company?
So be careful if you choose a name when you have a company, because your whole philosophy may change, or your whole, yeah. I mean, if you're making tires, I guess you can choose something and it'll probably stay with that. But um, so the reason why I used and I thought I was very clever, and I guess it was kind of clever, was because the rescue organization that required the training required the people to work on 3 main things. It was play, it was duration, so being able to hold place and to recall. I guess they just use that as something to kind of people can focus on, like
Okay.
helpful things, because play, as I'm sure you know, builds relationship, right?
Yes.
Duration is good for people for dogs learning to settle, and recall is self-explanatory. You know, as the better your recall, the more freedom and the more uh, safety there is for your dog and for yourself.
Well,
So
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
no worries. So those were the three things that they wanted, and I was like, okay, so I'm gonna be smart. I'm gonna give you three tools to learn these three behaviors, right?
Yes.
So that was kind of like the gimmick that I was thinking about, and it's not wrong. It's still not wrong. I looked at my website recently. I was like, there's a lot of things that I need to change, and I'm going to be doing that very soon. I wanted to do it this holiday, but I just was under the weather. I was just like vegging out. But my philosophy definitely has evolved. Um, but that's basically the reason. So you get three essential tools to learn three essential behaviors. That's why 3 4 3. Plus, it's me, Morena, and Max, right? So it's like everything is in threes, um, and yeah. So I figured out how to turn this three into my new philosophy. So it still kind of works. I don't know what the first three, I don't know exactly what that's going to be, but the second three I've figured out as my new philosophy. So you know.
So what would you say the difference is like because upstate New York, you're in New York City.
hmm
What would be kind of like the difference in the cultural aspect of the training?
So cultural aspect of the trainers or of the people who are asking for training,
You
because
can touch base on both because I'm pretty
okay.
sure that there's like a lot of differences between both.
Right. So I actually spend a lot of time in upstate New York. And I really become very outdoorsy. Like I like to go like hikes and stuff. Um, and so I'm here a lot, and I've started to kind of spread my feelers a little bit about training, and I'm realizing that there is actually not really that much less dogs that would need training, but it seems like people are not as pressed to get training because there's ways to get around a lot of the issues that when you are in New York City and you have a dog that is having issues, there is really no way to get around it. Like you're not going to be able to ignore it because it's going to be in your face as soon as you leave your apartment,
Oh yeah,
right? So that creates a different kind of urgency, and in many cases, I would say a more dedication, because it's kind of like it's now or never. Like we're gonna have to find something to do with this dog, or
so it's
otherwise,
very
either
fast.
well fast, and also we have to do it because otherwise either our dog is has no life, or we both have no life because we
Oh yeah.
can't go anywhere without each other if we want to spend time together, right? So therefore I realized in upstate the whole attitude is a little more relaxed. They take their time until they reach out for help. um, and so I first was actually looking forward to working up here, but I now almost at least from in that perspective, I like it better in New York City because most of the people that are hiring me are aware that I'm here, and like, I'm here to help, and they decided to hire me for that, and they're in it for it. And that is much more, I guess, rewarding. It can also be a lot more stressful. It can also be a lot more frustrating because now, from the trainer side, New York just throws everything at you as well.
Yeah.
So there's not just different dogs with different personalities with different issues. It's that, and then layered with everything that New York City has to offer at 24/7, pretty much, right? And so that definitely makes you, um, it can be stressful, and I think every dog trainer that cares for dogs, it can weigh on you because you want to find the solution. I used a lot of time in my therapy for a while to figure out how to find the right balance because I felt like, they're relying so much on me. I wanted to take care of all the issues myself until I realized, you know what? I am just one piece in that whole picture, where and I can do my job, and there's very many other aspects that contribute to the success or the disaster that is going to happen with this situation, right? It's the dedication of the people. It's the where they live. It's it's how good they are with dogs, right? Not
Yeah,
everybody that has a dog actually necessarily maybe should have a dog because they
exactly.
just have no idea to empathize with them, to really feel them, right? To really understand even the things that I'm trying to explain to them in very many ways. They're uh, like an example is like leash walking. Like some people are holding the leash like it's like some foreign object, and it's very hard for them to relax and to actually like that whole process of like look like work like using the leash in a proper way. There's people who are more have more ability to learn that, natural ability to learn that, than others. So all these, I mean, there's tons of other things, but all these aspects contribute um, to the picture of how the outcome is going to be of this training, right?
Yeah.
Um, Finances too, right? It's expensive. New York is expensive already. So all these things, um, and I don't know, I got off track, but I guess that is the difficulty of I guess being a dog trainer in general because we can only be we can only be we can only take care of our part of the deal, so
Yeah.
to speak. And but maybe it becomes more apparent in New York because people are struggling just to get out of the apartment and walk down the hallway without the dog freaking out and going into the elevator and going downstairs through the lobby. And I had one case, and I'm very happy to say that they're doing a lot better. Um, that was exactly that. Like the dog also actually started redirecting on her because she just didn't want to go outside because she was so afraid to go outside. So she had a problem with she couldn't put a leash on the dog with to go outside. When the dog was in the hallway, she never was sure if she was going to get dragged or the dog was going to jump on somebody in the elevator, coming out of the elevator, going into the elevator, the lobby. It was a nightmare. So those are extreme cases that I'm talking about, but they're probably more they're happening more often because I'm just one guy doing a couple of dogs here and there. So, um, and so that can be really tough, but at the same time, as I said, that she was very dedicated, right? And so she really wanted to keep her dog. It was kind of unfortunately, because she ended up not being able to leave her apartment. It was kind of her last resort, which also I felt like put super much pressure on me, or I put a lot of pressure on myself. Um, and fortunately, the dog is still with her, and it's going a lot better. So, um, and I think it could probably be a lot more relaxed up here, like in upstate New York.
In upstate New York.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because you can take your time. If you can't go, if you can't go into the town with your dog, that's not
exactly.
the worst thing. You can go into the woods where nobody is and
You
still have a good time.
there's always another option, which in New
Right.
York you're very limited into a very confined space.
Hmm.
So, Beat, you said that you were or still are a musician, right?
Yes.
Is there anything that you can kind of like compare the music life into the dog training life with?
That's a great question, and I guess coming from another musician, right?
Yes. I have my own philosophy and I see the similarities,
Okay, okay.
but I want to hear yours.
Okay, cool. So you know, if you look at it from just like they look very different. But I study jazz, and in jazz, you have to be able to improvise and think, think on your feet. Is that how you say it in English? I don't know. Um,
I know what you mean. I bet
yeah, yeah,
everybody
yeah.
would know what you mean.
Right. Um, and you have to kind of find solutions to problems that are presented to you in a different way, obviously. But I think it definitely helped me to think outside of the box. And I think one of the issues is that I think uh, dog parents, but also other trainers have that they have just one way of looking at it or one way of doing it. And I try to take information from all different places and workshops and podcasts and my own experiences with different dogs, friends' dogs, friend trainer friends' dogs, um, and I can kind of I guess my brain is trained to access this information in a very rapid way, so I feel like I'm rarely getting stuck. And I have the ability to improvise slash find different ways of approaching a situation.
Allow me to share my kind of
Yes,
seeing
please.
it.
I was gonna ask
Um, it's the cooperation,
that as well. Mm-hmm.
communication.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to communicate with words. We can kind of, when you communicate with a dog, you kind of have to bring yourself down to their level, right?
Right.
Because
Mm-hmm.
they can go up to a certain point, but we can go down if we
Right.
want to.
Right.
So we kind of communicate on a more instinctual level,
Mm-hmm.
especially when we deal with like behavior
Mm-hmm.
problems that we want to work with them on. I feel that like with fellow musicians, um, communicating through the instinctual um, aspect of the music, I think it kind of has a similarity. You know what I mean?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's
Absolutely.
so that's kind of and there's like a rhythm to it, and there's
Right.
like a harmony to it.
And there's a timing to it as well. Because
Exactly.
timing in dog training can be very, very important. If you miss the right moment, whatever you were going to do and was going to be working if you would have had the right timing, will 2 seconds later or 2 moments later will not have the same effect.
Yes.
So there's a lot of parallels. It's super important. The thing that I'm a singer, so I'm always like in the front, and also when it comes to promoting, you're kind of like a lone shark, kind of like having to put out your product and you're doing everything. What I enjoy about dog training is that I am not the main focal point. It's
Yes.
kind of like I'm not focusing on my own. Yes, it is I mean, obviously I'm a business and I want to, have good results so people will come back to, or more people will come through referrals and stuff. But it's a different way of I guess working. Like I don't have to not everything comes right back to me, or it's about me. It's about the dog. It's about the people that I'm trying to help. It's about, um, all these things. And I found that very during the pandemic. I found that very um, fulfilling in a way. Like I really kind of I was able to, because I was in such a, like, I was in such a forward drive with the music. I have to book this, I have to do this, the next tour needs to happen. I have to do all this. The next project has to happen. It was a constant thing, and it was all about me. Now I can kind of like take myself back a little bit and go from a different aspect. So I really enjoy that. Still trying to find a balance, because I guess through the pandemic, I got a big push, and so I'm busier as a trainer as I am as a musician, without having to do the same amount of promotion that I would have to do as a musician. So it's hard to find the balance, because I do love to do both. Um, and But at the same time, the dog training has given me insights, into my own personality, and into what life is all about, in a way, or like, just like communication, and getting along with people, and communicating, and um, that is kind of bring me back to the beginning of where when I decided to become a musician, and it wasn't about how far I was going to go, but it was just about the feeling of enjoyment, and that, like, thing that happens sometimes when everything comes together, and it's like goosebumps and like chills down your spine, just because the sound that happens at that moment or in that song.
Like you're in the studio and you
Yeah,
see,
and it's just like amazing,
and it's a rap, and you're like,
right.
oh my God, yes, that's
Yeah.
it.
So I kind of brought me back to that, because I don't have I have a different leg to stand on, so to speak, with the dog training, that is allowing me to keep, functioning, doing the regular human things of living, and eating, and enjoying myself in my private time. And with music, everything was always and at the same time. And I started going to concerts recently to enjoy and go and see the artist, versus going to a specific concert because I needed to go there because certain people were there for the reason, and I could possibly meet for
Yeah.
so connections, and so um it's good. It's good. I'm not in a rush, but yeah, I definitely want to find um, maybe a little bit more of a better balance between the music and the dog training.
Well, once you find it, you have to share it with me so I can
Okay,
know how to do it.
absolutely. Well, we're gonna keep talking. This is really great. We're like from different worlds, living in different places of the States, but a lot of similarities. So that's fantastic.
Yes, same state, different philosophies, and you can still find the similarities and everything.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Do you take the music with you to the dog training? The music brain, I mean?
The music brain, no, no. I think I do take the music, to block out the craziness
Yeah.
in the subway. When I do mostly in-home sessions, but when I'm at the client, I am super focused. Um I always, like, I try to remind myself, because social media is super important, and I always put the process that I'm doing with the dog over getting it on video. So very often I forget even to, like, take a picture of the dog at the end of the session. Not even talking about actually, doing those before and after videos that you see a lot. So I'm a little lacking in, um, I guess, my Instagram and Facebook and whatever game, but I'm not too worried about it.
Well, at the end of the video, we'll post the the Instagram up here,
Okay, perfect, perfect. They can
website
make
down
up they can
here.
make they can make up their own mind. But yeah, I definitely I think I can keep them apart, but I guess the music is always inside me, right?
Yeah,
Like once you've been doing music for such a long time, it's part of you. It's part of the thing of your thinking and approaching problems and the world, you know, in general, I think.
exactly. We always think what's missing, and I think that kind of
Okay.
has
Okay, I
us.
like that. I like that.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's not like when you open the fridge and you're like, okay, missing lettuce. You know, like
Right, right, right.
it's how to find that missing component all the
Mm-hmm.
time,
Mm-hmm.
and it's creativity. You know, we have to be
Right,
creative.
right, right.
Um, I think that every dog trainer should start taking music lessons just to kind of
You
uh,
know, I noticed that a lot of them are doing the fight sports like J Jack is doing
jujitsu. Yeah,
jiu-jitsu and I think Blake, I don't know if he's still doing it, but he was doing it as well. Um, or they're working out, and I guess that's a different way of like balancing, and also dog training can be super hard on your body too. I don't know
yes,
if, you know,
oh yeah.
I I I I, when I started, I did a lot more, and I kind of like slowed down for that reason as well because it's it can be hard. You're like always in positions that you wouldn't find yourself in
Especially
other
with puppies and
situations.
small dogs. Yeah.
Puppies and small dogs, right? And it's like you're, you know, I'm a tall guy, and so I'm always I always tell my clients don't mind me, you know, this is this just I'm just having fun. Especially when it comes to playing. I love personal playing with dogs. I feel like that's an amazing way of getting to know a dog and their boundaries, you know, their sense of when to curb their enthusiasm, and some that can't go that can't do it and actually bite you much too hard, and you have to slow them down. So, but it you know it can look very funny when I'm when
Well,
I'm doing it.
on that topic, it's like something that I like to say, like everybody has their own personal, unique way of kind of getting to know a dog, right?
Hmm.
It's like us getting to know each other, you know, like
Right,
humans.
right.
With one person, I'll go have a beer, you know. With one
Hmm.
person, I'll go play basketball.
Hmm.
One person, I'll go play soccer,
Right,
uh, PlayStation, whatever, you know.
right, right, right.
And we kind of um, put ourselves in their shoes.
Right. I I think that is one of the most essential parts that you just said.
Yeah.
I think that when approaching a dog, especially a dog that you don't know, I think it's super important that we try to put ourselves in their shoes, so to speak.
And the human's shoes, obviously.
Huh?
And the human that we're
And the
training.
human,
Yeah.
yes, yes. But for me, honestly, I think the first thing, because before you actually get to the session, you have, you know, you get to know the human already a little bit. You
Yeah.
know, the issues that they're having. They're telling you already where they're at, and I can usually tell from the first couple of emails what the main things are that are going wrong because of what they're doing or not doing or how they're doing it. So when I do meet a dog, when I do meet people, even though I might actually be talking to the humans first without the dog present, once the dog is present, the dog is taking priority in that situation. And the people are, depending on the issue that the dog has, are just there to help me navigate so I can get the dog to understand me better and me like and I'm kind of getting my vibe. Um, I try to be super hands off at the very beginning. I worked with a lot of fearful dogs, which was super helpful because a lot of them for the first 3 4 sessions I couldn't even do anything on my own with them because they were so fearful. They were fearful of the owners, at the beginning, and then they started getting better with the owners, but they still, because they only saw me every week or every other week. It took a very long time, and I took that literally for, I think, most of my clients' dogs, that I stay very hands off. I try to. I think most dogs I don't pet, like actually touching for
Yeah,
petting, until I really know them well. Um, so I kind of I'm super aware of their space, respecting their boundaries, reading their body language, and that takes a lot of focus. And that's kind of coming back to what I said before. So once the dog is involved, I'm laser focused on that
yeah.
until I know, I kind of get a feel of the dog, and then we're starting to translate between the human owner and the dog. That's kind of like how I work.
Well, for me, it will be very,
Doesn't sound very scientific, but
well, yeah, but for people like us, it makes sense. You know what I mean?
okay, okay, good.
Um,
I'm glad. I'm glad.
it's like talking about the music part, like you said something that I haven't thought about, and then it made
Hmm.
sense to me what you said, and vice
Right,
versa.
right,
It makes sense. It's
right,
when you're in it, you kind of know how to interpret it into your way of seeing it.
right, right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Absolutely. And then in that moment, like personal play obviously would not be is not going to be my first choice of
Yeah,
communicating with a dog that is fearful. That
exactly.
comes way later. Like that would be like if that happens, then I'm like, okay, breakthrough. But if it's like a happy-go-lucky kind of unruly, maybe even like I have a lot of puppies or dogs that come from shelters from like the south that are super mouthy, and they don't know, they have no boundaries. So they go much too hard on their foster or on their adopters. There's sometimes they have like wounds and like even they have bruises. They have all this kind of stuff. And but if I get the feeling that this dog is literally just not doesn't have a clue that humans are not other dogs, but it's generally just a dog that wants to play and there is no aggression behind it, then I would, for example, still try it out to personal play just to figure out how intense that dog is.
Well, we should do like an exchange dog trainer program, to kind of see what
Yeah.
you do,
I
you come
mean,
see what we do.
that is what I love to do actually, and that's why I guess we both ended up at that workshop
Yeah.
Chad. I do as many workshops that I can afford slash time wise fit in there. A lot of them unfortunately are not in New York. I think it has to do because they always need a space, and then the space is expensive, and then everything becomes more expensive. Hotels are expensive, so they're always somewhere in Texas or Florida or Oregon. So it becomes sometimes difficult to do, but I've been able to, go to see, to participate at some great trainers workshops, and then I try to share with my fellow trainers in New York, my friends, people that I work with, people that I used to work with. I try to, you know, share and get their input, and I think that's the only way to do it. I don't I it's it, it's I don't have to be the best. I don't need to be the first. I'm here to try to find a way to help as many dogs and humans maybe be able to be together in
Yes.
a more harmonious life in this crazy city, New York. That's my goal, and if that means that I'm, talking to somebody and I'm learning from somebody that may not have as much experience as I do in objectively, who cares? If that person has the finger on a hot topic that is going to help me, then I'm going to listen and I'm going to learn. So
Well, we're starting to get to the end of the interview.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to share something of my own. When I you can first of all you can learn from everybody. In my
Yes.
opinion, you can learn from a dog trainer that started today, his first day on the job. You can learn a lot from them,
Right.
and you
And
can
maybe
learn.
sometimes even the things that they're doing wrong
Yes,
can be
exactly,
helpful, right? You see
exactly,
them doing something, and then you actually something that might just be internally understood suddenly becomes clear, and you can kind of like pinpoint it.
exactly. But
Yeah.
sometimes, just even unrelated to dog training, they can say something, from I don't know their personal life,
Hmm.
and it can teach you a lot about things that you're missing in your equation, and you can learn something from everybody,
Right.
from the biggest ones to the smallest ones,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
um, and
And you
and
can also
and
learn what not to do.
exactly. Well, what not to do is just as important to know as what to do,
Absolutely,
and
absolutely.
like
That's
Mr.
and then we could take it back to the music, but not to geek out, but the note playing the notes and using the space in between the notes, right?
Exactly, beats and off beats.
Yeah.
But what I like to kind of see in a dog trainer, right,
Hmm.
is a person that loves. You can be like an antisocial person, still be a good dog trainer, but
Right.
it's gonna be very monotonic. You know what I mean? Very very bland. In my opinion, the biggest and best equation to be a good dog trainer, and again, like you, I don't care if I'm the best, I don't care if I'm the worst, as long as I can do whatever I can to help,
Hmm.
I'm happy. And I would do this for free if I could, you know.
Right. Exactly.
Um, but the best two elements in a dog trainer, I think, is a person that loves dogs and loves humans in the same amount.
Hmm. I
Uh,
think you definitely need at least some balance
at least
between.
close, yes. At least to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
close.
And you know, because you get, and I'm sure you know that, like, there's all types of personalities that you're getting from humans and from dogs. And there's some people that naturally click with you, right? And there's things that you know, you hit it off, there's understanding. And there's other people where you're like, and I think there it's hard to, it's harder, but I agree. I think the general um, empathy with both needs to be there because
Yes,
otherwise it's not going to work because they need to come together somehow. So you are like a translator. You're like a vessel to put your knowledge into practice into their into their relationship so it can become better. And it's that's and the fact that they are taking that they are doing training is already a big step. I feel like I think one of the questions that you sent me was what's the biggest problem with or the biggest mistakes that dog owners do. I think it's that they feel like they don't have to put any time into their dog, right?
I
So
think that, and I agree. And also when they take dog training lessons just to mark a check mark.
right.
I did it,
Or like the dog trainer is gonna fix my dog, but I'm not doing anything with it.
Exactly.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, definitely, definitely. But most of the time, I've been lucky. There's been a couple, but those are usually the people who don't even finish the packages. You
Yeah.
know, those are they do 2 sessions and then they end up not continuing. Um, but most of them at least put the effort into it a little bit, and then I feel like my goal is to show them the benefits and the amazing possibilities that can open up if they just add a little bit more. And I think once they add it, once the balance tips, I think then they can see the relationship change between them and their dog, and then the motivation becomes bigger. So I think I feel like as a dog trainer we are like psychologists, therapists, dog trainers, uh,
Translators,
yeah,
dog trainers,
translators. Like it's a very,
kindergarten
yeah,
teacher, you know,
exactly. Um, yeah, basically, like nurses, like I use this analogy of,
even dentist.
or
You know
that's
why?
true. I
You know
just
why?
recently had to tell somebody, has your vet looked at your dog's teeth? Because they were so bad,
Oh,
and I was
I
like,
was not talking about that. I was
oh,
like
okay.
talking
What are we
about,
talking
do
about?
you know like when you go to a dentist, right? He tells you how to brush your teeth and
Yeah.
floss, like it's your first time, even though
Uh-huh.
like I'm pushing 40. They'll tell me still the same thing, like I'm a 6 year old. And and then you come back a year later and he looks at your teeth and he's like, and you see the disappointment in his face.
Okay, okay. Now I hear you. All right.
Now you know what
That's like, yes,
oh,
I know that feeling.
you didn't practice engagement with your dog. Okay.
Right. There you go. There you go. Very true. Great analogy.
Now I know
I
how they
didn't get
feel.
I was taking it more literally because that actually happens as well, but that's a great comparison.
But that
Mm.
can happen. It's like not all we all have something else that's important, like with
Right.
each other, with kids and whatever.
Right. Right.
So sometimes we miss teeth. Sometimes the dog is fat. Sometimes
Right.
the we all have that. Even us. I would imagine, and um, I would kind of like this to be like one of the final points of this. That
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
we're dog trainers, right?
Right.
But I think the dogs that we train and the people that we train have more balanced packs than we do. At least my pack.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Mm.
But we can afford it because we know how to fix it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if balanced is the word that I would be using, for my thing, but I don't have the perfect obedience or the perfect behaved dog, but I can get what I need when I need it.
Exactly.
That's so I don't need to have constant control, or I don't have to have the perfect heel, or I don't have to have whatever other so
As long as you have safety.
exactly, safety. But I do believe that, and that's kind of, we didn't get to talk about it, but I did consider myself a balance trainer at the beginning because I was much more obedience focused and all that kind of stuff. But I think now what I'm looking for is to find a balance for the dog. So to create a balanced dog. That is kind of my goal, because and that's why I kind of jumped in when you said, like, so, and balance can be different for everyone, right? Balance
Yeah,
is depending on so many situations. But I think the main issue that I see with dogs having issues is that there is an imbalance in the relationship, in their fulfillment, in their understanding, in the communication, all this stuff. So while I don't like the different camps of balance trainers and force free and positive only and all that kind of stuff, because I think everybody has something important to contribute to training. I do like the word balanced in the way that I explained it when it comes to what I try to do with the dogs that I work with. So because that's, I think, the only way that they can have a better life with their humans, and their humans can have a better life with them.
yes. Any inspiring words for the younger generation of dog trainers?
That was it. That was just it.
That was that?
I don't think obedience. Yes, obedience is helpful and in some cases necessary. And but at least at the point that I am now, I started out as an obedience based trainer because that's what we were doing then. That's the knowledge that we had. Then
And
Blake
it's good. It's
Rodriguez.
good to start that way.
It's good to start that. Yes.
Yeah.
Then Blake Rodriguez brought in J-Jack, and J-Jack seems like a very intuitive guy, and he literally changed the whole perception of things. And so right now, while you do need to know all of how to teach a dog obedience and all this kind of stuff, I think the more important things are everything else. Being able to give a dog structure, consistency, and to advocate for their past, if you know it, for their DNA, for their personality, and for who they are right now. What are they in right now? To be able to see that and work on that. I think that's a dog that is fearful and can sit and down and hold place. It's not reaching the real essential parts of that dog. Yes, it's beneficial to a degree, but there is other things that are much more important. There is um, and we like play in general. I find since especially since J-Jack, I find so important. Um, and the biggest successes were always with the fearful dogs is when they started to play because
Yes.
that's one of the last things that they do. Play with you, meaning like they may play with other dogs, but they're not playing with you. And so finding the essential things that are helping a dog to emotionally feel better and gain the understanding of what is asked of them in this human world by us humans. I think that is the main thing, and whatever that is, if part of it is obedience, great. But it like it's way broader.
Yeah, there's like
That's kind of like where,
a thousand solutions for everything. Every one of those solutions is right for somebody else.
right, right.
Well, we can
Sorry,
talk.
I'm still getting over a cold. I'm like I'm choking up.
Well, this is the season. This is the right season to get
All
colds,
right.
and
Well, thank you.
well, yeah, I hope you feel better, and thank you for sharing an example of how cold should look like.
Yeah, well, thank you.
But yeah, we
I
can.
practice that.
I had a really good time talking to you. I can imagine we could talk about this for like hours,
Yes,
and
yes, I know, and I can kind of get into tangents, but I don't know. Sometimes I feel like the if you don't get the whole story, you don't get the whole bayat. So,
well, that's exactly right. And we will talk again. You will be
I'd
on
love
the
it. I'd love
show.
it, and
Uh, and
it's a shame we're so far, but maybe we can also like do something in person, as you said, like kind of like do like exchange some stuff in how you approach things. I'd love to know more. So
well, it's all. I think it will be interesting for me to learn the high stress,
right,
like high rhythm,
right, right, right,
the punk rock of dog training.
right. Exactly.
But yeah, I'm gonna share your social media. Everybody,
Please.
this is Biat, very
Last name
talented musician.
Kaestli. I know nobody can pronounce it. Beat Kaestli.
Beat Kaestli,
Yes,
and
like the cast and the name Lee.
you're not that sick. I'm gonna post here your social media and information for anybody that is interested. Very interesting, man. Uh, I would look into checking out what he can do music wise and dog training wise. Beat, it's always a pleasure. If you like this, please subscribe, hit the like button, And we'll see you soon in the next show. Pause Unleashed 518 out.